All right, let me tell you guys about our very first sponsor. When we first set out to make this podcast, we had absolutely no idea what we were doing, but we knew we needed a place to record, edit, host, and distribute our show. Luckily for us, we found Anchor, which has all of these services in one spot in an easy-to-use format on desktop or mobile, and it's free, which fit really nicely into our beginner budget of $0. We were able to distribute our podcast to all of the major platforms like Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Mel.
And Kel.
And this is It's Called Culture.
Ever heard of it?
Welcome to episode 5. We spent more time in mass than in class.
I love that title.
It took a little while to come up with.
So we're back recording our 5th episode, and we're going to be talking about what we went through in school. And as Melissa said, the title, we did spend more time in church than we did in the actual learning any education.
We totally were at mass all the time.
Yeah, like I feel like my memory thinks we were at mass every Friday, but I know that wasn't the case. But there was also like a holiday every other month.
Yeah, so we had to do all the like holy days of obligation. And then we know Lent, like Stations of the Cross was definitely every week. But then there was like always another reason to be over there too.
Yeah, I just briefly remember going to church on like Fridays, and then like shortly after mass was over, we would go home, and then we would have like a random during the week going to church, like maybe like Wednesday.
Well, I think like the holy days of obligation were on different days of the week, but there was like confessions and stuff too that we'd have to go over there for on whatever frequency that was.
We were so young, and why did we have to go to confession so often? I went to the priest and I said like, oh, I swore I didn't do my homework.
I talked back to my grandmother. Like it was like the dumbest shit.
Like that's not gonna, like I'm not gonna be able to go to heaven because I didn't do my homework.
Confession was a whole mood.
It was.
Yeah. Because there was different ways they could do that. They had the little confessional booths in the back of the church. That was more of a private experience, right?
Yep. Yep.
That's how you usually see it in like movies.
Yeah. Someone running into the church. They like run into the booth because like, you know, they need to like confess or talk to the priest because they're like in like a little entanglement situation, and like the priest somehow is always there already.
Just
like,
waiting in the booth
waiting.
like he lives in the booth.
That's not how it works.
And that booth had like a little window that you'd slide open.
And then you would kneel down.
But a window that you supposedly couldn't see who was there. Like it was supposed to make it so you were anonymous.
Yeah, it was like
the priest.
Shaded almost.
Like I had like a little screen or like a vent.
I always envisioned like a stained glass window, but that's not what it was.
I feel like it was like a screen. Like a window screen, but like different.
Because we could see him. Well, we obviously knew what priest it was.
You see the little shadow outline of him or whatever.
But then he's not supposed to see us.
I'm sure he knew. Or he could see us. But we're all in the uniform. We all look the same.
Right, and then same, like, again, we didn't have really bad confessions. Well, some of us didn't.
And so there was like 2 areas where people would go into the booth. He had a window on both sides of him.
Yes, he did.
Right?
Yeah.
So like if we were both going in at the same time, we'd both be there. Your window would be closed. He'd be talking to me in my window.
And then he would just like, when you were done with you,
he would just shift his weight over to that window because they were always like really close to the window.
Yeah. It was like very like secretive, like dark and murky, like, you know,
close your little curtain.
Yeah.
So that one is kind of like the movie version. That was at the back of the church. But then they had what I'm going to say is like even more traumatic.
Oh, yeah, the worst one.
On the altar. Out in the open. Yeah. In the public, face to face.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. So now I'm telling. So, but there's a difference. What's the difference? You had one that you're covered and he can't see you. Like, what is the point if you're going to do another version of confession where he can see you?
I don't know. Save your bad sins for the anonymous
when
one.
You're covered?
Like, you had to face be like, here's all the things that I did wrong. I didn't honor the Sabbath.
Mine's just always because I swore. Always. Like, I swore at my mom.
I'm sure they started. Well, actually, I don't know enough about the Sacrament of Confession and when that starts. Is that like after First Communion? Because I just can't remember how old we were when we had to start doing confession.
Or was it like, did we do confession in order to get First Communion?
Maybe.
That sounds
right.
Yeah.
So your like we weren't even going to talk baptism, but so your baptism covers you, wipes away your sin. But then when you're 7, you're like full of sin.
Because we did do it young. So I know it definitely was around communion time.
No, that sounds right.
It wasn't like for confirmation or anything. Because we're already going confession so much before confirmation.
Right.
So it was definitely communion time. I just don't remember now if it was like before or after.
Right. I think you're right.
I feel like it was before and then we had communion.
So baptism's good for a good 7 years. Sin-free.
Yeah, because isn't that like we had to confess our sins in order to take the first communion?
Probably.
You know, eat that wafer.
At 7.
Yeah.
Like, what sins could you have?
Right. I said shit, and my mom got mad at me. Okay, 7 Hail Marys.
At least it wasn't an Our Father.
Yeah.
That was the big time, heavy hitter. If you did some bad shit, if you had to say an Our Father.
Now, like, if you had a more serious sin, like, say, for whatever, older and, I don't know, would you actually tell the priest? Like, if you were cheating on your wife or husband, would you actually go tell your priest? Definitely not in a face-to-face.
Listen, I'm dying that you said that because somebody in our class confessed to adultery. We were...
What?
I don't know what year this was, but we were less than 12. Okay. And I don't remember who it was, but I remember somebody confessing to adultery because they knew like the 10 commandments and those were the things that you could break. And they were confessing to adultery. And the priest was like, I don't think you know what that means.
So you're telling me this kid had nothing to confess. So he was like, let me go through the 10 commandments and see which one I can say I did. I'm glad he didn't say that he killed somebody.
But, I mean, he can't go to jail for it. No. Priest's not allowed to tell.
That's true. So instead, he cheated on his significant other that he didn't have.
Maybe, like, adultery is more broad. Maybe it was, like, looking at a Playboy magazine under his bed. I don't know.
But, like, did they even, like, confess that? Like, I wouldn't confess that to the priest.
No.
Definitely
not face to face.
No. I was looking at my brother's Playboy magazine. Like, I can't see a kid confessing that to him.
No, so he said I committed adultery.
Especially our priest. He was, like, scary.
You're confessing your sins to the same person who you had to get in trouble with. So, like, if you had a behavior problem at school...
You got sent to him.
You got sent to the priest. But now you have to just go and tell him all the things you did wrong.
Yeah. So when
what a power trip.
Right?
Like, that power dynamic was not okay.
I feel like when we got in trouble in school, we should have never got sent to him. like keep it separate.
Right.
Like together, but separate. Keep like him. He shouldn't be disciplining the kids.
Right. You're going to go to confession and you're not going to say the things that you did wrong. So then you need to go to confession again because you lied to the priest.
And aren't you supposed to... So if you miss Mass, you don't take communion that day because obviously you missed Mass. And because you missed Mass, you can't take communion until you go to confession.
Oh, that sounds right.
Right? Wasn't there something weird like that?
Mm-hmm.
So someone that's busy raising kids that couldn't maybe go to church on a Sunday and is planning to go the Sunday after has to go to confession at some point.
Yeah, ain't happening.
During COVID, couldn't go to confession.
Backlogged sins. Huge backlog.
You think there was Zoom confessions? Oh my God.
Oh. We're laughing, but I guarantee they did that.
Yeah, like I'm sure.
They do a televised mass. There is Zoom confession. Like, what's the time frame between confessions that you're allowed? Because you'd have to start with, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. My last confession was blank.
A week ago. No.
Like 20 years ago. Like, what's the right duration?
Damn, I'm going to be sitting there for a long time telling him all my sins.
Father, how much time do you have? Do you want maybe just the catalog of the more recent years? Or should I start in 2002? Just give me the highlights. That was an experience. And we would compare our punishment, like our prayers that we had to say.
Yeah. We'd say like how many Hail Marys or if you got Our Fathers. So we assumed if you got an Our Father, you really sinned a lot. And if you got a Hail Mary, it wasn't as bad. Why did we think that?
I don't know. The Our Father is a longer prayer than the Hail Mary. It's like more words.
And it's like the main prayer.
Yeah.
So maybe like we just thought like, oh, that's like the more serious one.
Do you think he had like a little Rolodex of like, okay, this sin equals one Our Father and 3 Hail Marys? Like, because I feel like he was just going off the cuff here.
Yeah, I think so. And like if he could see who was in and he saw what kid it was, and let's face it, we had a couple of problem child kids.
Automatic Our Fathers.
Yeah.
Did you ever get a Glory Be?
What does that mean if you got that?
I don't know. I don't feel like there was a rhyme or reason to it.
No.
It was inconsistent. What if you didn't say them? Like, is the confession only complete like after you say your prayers?
I'm not gonna lie. I know I didn't do my full... If he told me to do like 5 Hail Marys, I probably just did one and I just sat back down.
It was as soon as you got back to the church pew, you're sitting next to your friends.
Yeah.
So you're just turned looking at them and you're just talking to your friends about how many they had to do.
Yeah.
You weren't actually doing the prayers.
Because you're 7 years old. How much can you sin?
Right.
Like you have a kid. How much has your kid sinned so far?
Oh, a shit ton. The girl's a sinner. She needs to start confession.
Like, I feel like confession should be more when you're maybe more of an adult and you actually start really sinning.
Right, but then, like, how are you going to brainwash them into thinking that they need confession?
True. Yeah, because you got to start that brainwashing young.
Like, there would just be masses that each class would do.
Yep. Yeah. Each month, like a class would, I think it was like each month a class would have a mass where we did like the read-ins and we would do everything else that I don't remember what you do in church.
Like any part of that mass was done by people in your class.
Right.
So like it was the 5th grade mass. And if you were in 5th grade, like you were bringing up the gifts.
Yeah.
And 5th grade was like leading the choir songs for that mass and all the readings, like you said.
I was always so nervous to do a reading.
I fell off the
You did?
the altar. I was in first grade and we were too short at the lectern.
Yeah.
And so they had a little step stool. So there's already a step there normally.
Yep.
And then they put a step stool, like a giant step stool on top of that. So you had to take one step and then a step stool and you did your reading. And I'm like terrible at public speaking, super nervous in front of people. I was also like 6, right?
And I feel like she isn't that now.
I still am. But I did my reading and I was so focused on like getting the words right and all these people staring at me that when I finished, I just turned and walked off and I forgot that I was on the step stool and I just face planted right on the altar.
That's amazing.
Honestly, maybe that's where my fear of public speaking started.
Yeah, the readings were like a little nerve-wracking because especially too, like when you were younger and there was like these like crazy words that they would use in the Bible that you didn't know, you would like fuck up. And I don't know. It was nerve-wracking.
A reading from the letter of Paul to the Ephesians.
Yeah, exactly.
We always had to rehearse. We always had to rehearse for the mass. So the amount of time you were actually out of class because of a mass was like 3 times as long as the actual mass was.
That's right.
Because you had to like rehearse all the songs, the choir songs. So that took like hours every afternoon leading up to the mass.
Mm-hmm. I remember that now.
Do you remember, you know, the song I'm going to say? There's some kind of song that's like, I'll lift you up on eagle's wings.
And we would sing it as
English muffins.
Yep.
We got the whole class.
We coordinated this.
Yeah. And it wasn't during rehearsal, so we rehearsed it correctly. We rehearsed it as eagle's wings. Eagle's wings.
I was just going to say it.
We rehearsed it as eagle's wings.
Yep.
And then we all just like went around whispering to each other and we're like, but in church, we're going to sing English muffins. And then we did. And the teachers were so pissed.
I remember that. I think that was it. Wasn't that in 6th grade?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. He was pissed.
I don't find this very amusing.
It was, though. English muffins. And even now when I hear that song still, I just still think of English muffins.
Every time.
Yeah.
Like our humor was so juvenile.
That's what made it fun. We had to do that to like enjoy ourselves.
Right. So it was like all that time rehearsing the songs, and then we would actually practice like the readings during class.
And like, do you think our parents would have been okay knowing this is like what we did instead of like learning? Like here, your parents are paying you to go to this school. And you're not learning how to do math, but you're learning how to sing English muffins.
You know, I think because our parents are so religious that I think that they were fine with it, but I don't think they realized that it was coming at the expense of all of the other subjects.
Right. I know.
Like, I think they thought that we were getting a superior education in the Catholic school, and it was really subpar.
Yeah, like it wasn't awful. Could be better.
It was just like, I mean, contact time. So like we just didn't have enough hours learning actual subjects because of all the time we were learning religion and doing church stuff and mass and prepping for mass. And it was like most of our days.
I remember this was in 7th grade. This is like obviously off subject that we're going to talk about, but today, well, sort of. But I remember in 7th grade that we had to learn, that teacher made us learn every piece of like what was in the church. Do you remember that?
Like the parts of a mass?
Yeah, the parts of the mass.
Yeah.
Like what the altar was, what this was, what that. And like I remember going, do you remember like going into church and he would have us sit there and pretty much like he would quiz us like in church. I remember like, you know, he would be like, oh, what is this? And you would be like, altar. What is this? And you would write down like bathtub for the baptism. Like I remember we did that a couple of times.
I vaguely remember that. I remember learning the parts of the mass with him for sure. Like the processional,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Yep. But it's like, why did we need to learn that?
I don't know.
I can probably only tell you what the altar is.
Yeah, we know a few things, but some of it didn't stick.
No.
But I don't think our parents realized how much of that there was taking out of time from regular education.
There was so much of it.
And we weren't even in, like, we didn't do choir.
No,
I didn't.
I don't think.
Did you ever do it?
I think I did. Like, did that count as, like, credits towards, like, confirmation? Because didn't we have to get, like, credits or do stuff for, like, confirmation?
Oh, I didn't do shit.
Like, I remember staying after school and daycare and helping out.
I know you weren't doing that shit out of the goodness of your heart.
No, so absolutely not. So that's what I'm saying. It had to be.
Yeah, I don't really remember being in it other than when our class had to do a mass. Because then we had to be part of the choir.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking. So do we want to like talk about religious holidays? So our listeners can kind of get an idea of how much time we spent in church?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the holy days of obligation. There was All Saints' Day right after Halloween.
And we went to church that day.
I did remember kind of looking forward to going to church because you didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So if it was like during the period when it was normally math class, you knew that like you didn't have to do your math homework.
Right. Which I enjoyed because I hated our math class.
But like you'd be like, yes, we're missing math.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like there was a part of us, I think, that enjoyed those times that we had mass.
Yeah, we definitely enjoyed going to mass a couple of times.
Just because it was getting you out of something else.
Yeah, you were getting out. You get to like cross the street. So we got to like see some sun. You know, we weren't being watched by our teacher. Like, you know, I don't know. Where did our teachers sit? They like sat and then like all the kids. And then if you were like behind your teacher, you could kind of get away a little bit with like kind of chatting with your friends.
So when we were older, we had to bring little kids to mass.
Just going to bring that up.
So like the kindergarten kids, too rowdy to sit 30 kindergarten kids all in a row without supervision in mass. So like the 8th graders would pair up with kindergartners and we'd each take one on each arm and we'd walk them over to church. And then they would be sitting. So we'd be sitting every other. We'd have a kindergartner in between the 8th graders.
And they have 8th graders watching 3rd graders. Like we were any better. Like, let's think about it.
Right.
Just like not as loud. We knew obviously like, hey, if we're going to talk, we need to be whisper. But we were still talking just like the 3rd graders.
So that's how they kept it under wraps. Was they just like interspersed the other classes in between us. I mean, that was pretty brilliant of them.
Yeah, that was.
But I do remember, so like you sat in the rows of the church pews with by class. And I remember like after a certain mass, they'd be like, the 7th grade class was terrible during that mass. And like an entire class would just be in trouble or shamed. There's a lot of talking coming from the 7th grade area.
We would always talk there at church.
Right.
So that was like early, obviously, November, All Saints Day. And then we jumped into Advent season.
Before that, there's or actually, I don't even know when Advent starts officially. But the Immaculate Conception of Mary was a holy day of obligation, which I've apparently been using wrong this whole time because I always just thought that meant like Jesus was...
We thought that's when she got pregnant.
Right. But it's not.
By the Holy Spirit. But it wasn't.
No.
So we're all using it. We all thought it wrong.
Right. Apparently that's like the virgin birth is what that's called.
But do you think we were taught it right, but we just are not remembering it? No, because why do we all think that was the day that she got pregnant?
I don't know. But apparently it's when she was born without sin. The rest of us, sinners.
Yep.
Born with sin for no apparent reason.
That's why we have to go to confession all the time.
Well, no, those are our own sins that we're confessing. But born with like Adam and Eve original sin that you need baptism to remove. But Mary.
Yeah, like that isn't our fault.
Right. But they said, boop, specto patronum. Mary is free of sin.
She was the winner.
And then I think Advent kicked off right around there.
Yeah. Not only did we go to church for Advent, but in school, we would do a televised program for each class to watch. And Melissa's staring at me. And we would have to sing. And we would light the candle.
It was a whole production.
Yep.
So it was televised. Was it always televised? Because I know it definitely came over the intercom system.
It was, at one point, it was televised. I don't know if every year was.
So maybe earlier on, it was just over the intercom. And then in the later years, when they got a little more tech savvy, then they were doing the televised production.
Because you do remember it being televised.
Yeah, I remember. I remember standing there being part of the production. And it was every morning. Like it was part of, morning announcements, Pledge of Allegiance, and then the televised Advent programming.
Yep.
Where you'd light the candle. So there's like 4 candles for all the different weeks of Advent, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like 3 purple and a pink.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think the pink is the last one. Like, I feel like it's like purple, purple, pink, purple. I don't know how it goes.
We didn't do too much prep.
We did this every day, every year. It did not sink in.
No, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
For like the amount of religion that we got like thrown at us, it's hard. I couldn't tell you. Like I don't know if the pink candle was the first or the last. I think it was the last one.
I feel like they just like switched it up and it was purple, purple, pink, purple.
Like, do you think they just ran out of a purple candle? There is a reason behind them. We know this.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm just saying that what there is, we think.
I'm sure there's a reason other than the sale at Ocean State Job Lot.
Or like they got to the store and there was only 3 purple candles left. So... And then there was the one pink one chilling in the box. So they were just like, oh, let's just grab these.
Good enough. Close enough. Pink, purple.
We'll burn them together. They won't know.
If we put the pink one third, people will think there was a reason.
And then they're going to podcast it about it.
So they would light the candle for whatever week you were on in Advent. And there was a song. I don't know if we're allowed to sing it.
We don't know if we're going to get sued, but then we also don't know who to get sued by.
Yeah, I doubt the Advent song people are out there just looking for royalties, but...
Do we just at least say the name of the song so if people want to Google it, they can hear it on YouTube, I'm sure? Or do you...
Is it not just called the Advent song? Or the Advent... Oh, light the Advent candle one? But the best part about it was the crackling. Like it would come over the intercom and it was like...
That's what it sounded like on the intercom in school when it was during Advent. It'd be like the...
It was just like 1990s PA system. Like it was popping and it was crackling.
Yeah.
And it sounded like it was coming off of a record player.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I'm sure it was a cassette tape or something. But... It sounded like a record player was starting. and it would go around and it would just start singing this song. And you would just stand there and just hold this little paper with the lyrics. But we knew the lyrics. You didn't need the paper. And you were there was a tripod with a camcorder that was broadcasting this to every classroom's TV.
We were ahead of our time.
And you just kind of swayed along and sang the tune.
We secretly like the song.
It's a bop. It's an absolute bop. I really think you should YouTube it. Maybe we'll post a link to it.
We want to sing it, but we just don't know if we'll get sued, and we don't know by who.
Is that all of Advent? Eventually it becomes Christmas.
So the candles were wrapped around in a wreath.
The candles at the church, though, they were really big and tall. Did they actually just leave that lit the whole time? What if the candle ran out before Christmas? Were they replacing candles? Did they buy the whole stock at Job Lot?
Wholesale pricing for candles. Half price. Buy it in bulk.
Yeah, they must be in.
Just open a pantry closet in the back of the church. It's just all candles.
There must be.
Do you think there's one specific person in the church grounds that was just in charge of candles and check and see if one was really low? I'm gonna have to change that one in about a week.
He probably was in charge of all procurement. He had to procure the Jesus wafers. Is that a Stop and Shop purchase?
You can't buy them on Amazon. You can. I'm sorry. Because I had a conversation with someone, this was years ago, and we were talking about that, and I was like, let me see where you can buy these wafers, and I remember looking it up, and you can actually buy them on Amazon.
I'm sure the church has moved to Amazon purchases. Right?
Quick shipping.
Next day, give it a little bing, bang, boom, blessing.
And that is it. You got it ready for Sunday Mass.
You're good to go.
Yeah. And the amount of, wow, man, they're probably definitely using it now because the amount of time that we went to church, these kids probably going same amount of time too.
Think about the volume of communion wafers
they go through. Yeah.
I mean, church attendance probably down these days, but still.
Absolutely. I remember freaking out when we had to do communion. And, they would tell us that this wafer was the body of Christ. I thought I was actually eating Jesus.
And I don't know what I thought.
I don't want to eat him. One of the teachers had to, explain to me. Couldn't tell you what he said, what the explanation was, but I just remember, freaking out, thinking, I was I don't want to eat. Why would I want to eat Jesus?
I don't know how they would have explained that to you, because they can't be oh, it's just a symbol.
Yeah.
Because they were supposed to believe that it really is.
Yeah, exactly. So how do they explain
Am
to the kids
I a cannibal?
Right.
Do you think the wine was Carlo Rossi?
Absolutely.
Just a big jug of Carlo Rossi in the back, and they just pour.
Can we get advertisement for Carlo Rossi, please? Our fathers would appreciate it.
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. It was Carlo Rossi wine that they were using.
I never did the wine when we were in school. And I don't know why, because I feel like we should have been jumping at the chance to get wine as an 8th grader.
They didn't it wasn't something that was offered to us. They didn't do that with us.
Are you sure? I feel like it was available on some occasions.
Yeah, but they can't give wine to little kids.
In the 90s?
True.
I think that the wine was up for grabs. But I never made a stop.
No, me neither.
I'd walk right past it. But I think it was there.
Man, I should have.
I still don't think I've ever done the wine. Maybe I've done it once or something.
He would take a swig. And then the people that were chilling on the side of the altar, like for the readings, the people that did the readings, they would sit up there.
Yeah, and then there was always a person. So you'd have the priest giving communion or whoever was giving communion.
Yeah.
And then there was always a person like right to the side of them holding the chalice with the little napkin. And I think it was available to us in middle school.
I guess. Yeah. I do remember that. Like I remember I remember the chalice, but we never had it.
I think we were just scared.
Because it's the blood of Jesus. So it's like, here I am. You know, I'm already eating him.
I didn't know it was Carlo Rossi in there.
No. I wish I had.
So then you get into like Christmas, which we weren't really in school for Christmas time.
No.
So I don't even think, did we even get to like the last candle on the Advent wreath before like Christmas break? Probably not. They probably said, do that one at home, folks, for homework.
Isn't it for the 4 Sundays?
Yeah, but like I don't know the 4th verse of that song. I don't think we ever got there.
Yeah, I don't remember doing like a 4th candle.
That 4th verse is unknown.
I wonder if we were supposed to like do something like that, like like do it at home.
Oh, it was definitely homework.
Yeah,
for sure,
like something like that. And I just like had a white candle at home.
And then so you'd have to do like your Christmas mass stuff separately with your family. Did you go to midnight mass?
No. Did you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, we did not.
We would go to midnight mass. Speaking of candles, midnight mass.
I've gone to midnight mass a couple of times, but it wasn't every year. They
would give every single person attending mass a candle. And it had this little paper thing that would go around it to catch the wax.
Okay.
That was like melting down the side of the candle. And they'd light it. And you'd hold it the whole mass.
Oh,
it was such a fire hazard. Okay. You just have children holding candles. The place is packed. Like you're shoulder to shoulder in there. You're lighting the person's hair on fire in front of you. You're kneeling, you're standing, you're sitting, I don't even know how they dealt with communion.
And I'm sure there's a lot of hairspray.
Very flammable place.
Yep. They got those candles in bulk. They needed to get rid of them.
I remember it being a fire hazard. Like, yeah. I'm 5. Why am I holding this lit candle? I'm like letting the wax drip all over everything.
So it's funny. A few years ago, I went to Salem for Halloween. And I did like a ghost tour, and they did the same thing where you hold a candle. So I'm just thinking about that because like you're 5 holding a candle at midnight mass. I was an adult holding a candle on this ghost tour, and then I end up burning myself and my shirt. So
yeah,
I can't even imagine for a 5-year-old to hold a candle.
That's a liability. Like, do you think they informed their insurance provider? We're going to have about 350 people in here, women, children, and infants, all holding lit candles for an entire church service.
Are the men not at church at midnight mass?
Oh, they're there. They're there. They're holding the collection basket and walking around. But, I mean, their premium was going to go up.
Well, they're always lighting candles up in that place, so I'm sure their insurance was sky high. That's probably why my mom got yelled at for not going to church.
They had insurance bills to pay.
They need those envelopes. If they don't get those envelopes, they can't give you a candle to burn at midnight mass. I did go to midnight mass in Portugal when I was there for Christmas. So I was in 8th grade. I remember my parents took off like a month. It was 3 weeks.
Again, didn't care about the education.
Nope.
Taking you right out of school.
And I remember going to midnight mass there.
But no candles?
I remember kissing Jesus.
Oh. Did you have to pay $1?
We had to like all line up. Kind of like if you're, getting the Eucharist. But we would just like kiss Jesus. All of us. Probably 300 people kissing the same Jesus on the lips.
But it's fine because they wipe it with a They wipe it with a cloth in between. Definitely antimicrobial cloth.
You think so?
No.
No.
It was a handkerchief.
So all of us, 300 people, kissing the same.
And you had to pay for the privilege of that germ.
So this is why I'm such a germaphobe now.
That wasn't limited just to Portugal. It's cool that you did it while you were out there.
Yeah,
but they did that in all the churches here.
Yeah, I just so happened to be for one of the holidays. I
wonder if that is a Portuguese thing, though. Like, do non-Portuguese Catholic churches do that? Kissing the baby Jesus?
That's a good question. Let us know.
All right, we're running out of time, but we are not running out of holy days of obligation. So we're going to have to do the rest of these in the next episode. So we will catch you then. Yeah, part 2.
So it's about that time. Thanks for listening.
If you're enjoying our podcast, please just give us a review on whatever platform you're using to listen to us. You can also visit our website. It's folkandfad.com. We have transcripts available there of every episode. And you can also send us an email, mail@folkandfad.com. Or you can hit us up on Twitter. Same handle there, folkandfad.
And for Instagram, you can follow us at _It's Called Culture.